Good morning and welcome to Travels with Monkey Boy. Today we're continuing on our journey to Nepal. This is April 1998. Arriving from Karachi, the representatives of Mala Tours met us outside the airport in Kathmandu, Nepal. Mala was the name of an ancient dynasty of kings of Nepal. It was the name of our tour company and the main tour organizer, Surindra Mala, who worked for Mala Tours but was not related to the owners, nor was he a king. In fact, Mala Tours is owned by an American hippie that came over 30 years ago to smoke the legal hashish and ended up staying to exploit the masses. Nepal is a strange country, proud of the fact that they were never conquered, though not mentioning the fact that the British came over in the 1800s and kicked the stuffings out of their kings and just didn't bother going up into the mountains to clear out the last vestiges of opposition. The country is made up of 88% Hindus that look Indian because they came from India 2,000 years ago, and 12% Buddhist that look Tibetan because they came from Tibet in dribs and drabs over the last 2,000 years. Interestingly, the Tibetans, 12% of the population, own everything in Nepal. They're kind of the Jews of South Asia. They stress education and hard work. They keep their money within their family, and they aggressively invest this money in buildings, business, and retail. Even more interestingly, the Hindu Nepalese don't seem to mind. Actually, there's a lot of interesting things about Nepal. It really is a hard country to explain. First of all, you kind of need to know the geography, what I'll go over in the maps later on, but um, Nepal is at sea level at the far western end, and it's the tallest place in the world on the far eastern end. Nepal has more bird species and plant species than almost any spot on the earth because in a very small country, you have desert, jungle, hill, river, and mountain ecosystems. Nepal is also somewhat unique in that in a country of 20 million people, only 500,000 live in its largest city, and only 250,000 live in its second largest city. And those were basically the only two things we would recognize as cities. I'm not sure in any country of 20 million people there is such a concentration of rural living. Anyway, at this point of the day, it was about 4 p.m. when we arrived from Karachi. Go back and listen to the horrific flight from Karachi. And one of the Mala people picked us up at the airport and accompanied us to the hotel for that first night. The Hotel Utsi. Driving to the hotel, you wouldn't call Kathmandu a beautiful city. Actually, dirty is the first adjective that comes to mind. It's the sort of crowded, polluted, disorganized city that I imagine is like all of Southeast Asia. We passed by the King's Palace and the Parliament Building and a few temples, but frankly, we were also tired and the windows were dirty that it didn't make much of an impression on us. The Hotel Utsi, on the other hand, we knew we were going in that this place was going to be a challenge. One of our guidebooks listed it as 1 star out of 5, but every place described it as clean. After the day room in Pakistan and after seeing the general state of disorder of Kathmandu, the thought of staying in a 1 star hotel was terrifying. To get to the hotel, our taxi had to drive down an unpaved road in the middle of the busy old shopping district of the town. If you have a mental image of one of the Chinatowns in the US, picture going to the main street in Chinatown, taking a random unpaved side street, drive a half-mile down that street, and stop at the first sign you see that says room available. That's the Hotel Utsi. But lo and behold, when we walked in and walked up the 4 flights of stairs with our luggage and walked into our Spartan rooms, we found it was clean. Okay, not sparkling, but you didn't stick to the floors. And the only silverfish I found looked as if they had recently bathed. There was no TV in the room. There was one in the lobby, and they had Cartoon Network. So the kids gave it 3 stars. It really boggles my mind. I was a cartoon watcher when I was a kid. When I was 6, Frankie's age, we didn't have a color TV. We had 3 channels to watch, and the schedule was something like this. Cartoons on Channel 5 from 6 to 7 a.m. I think you had Captain Kangaroo on from 7 to 8 on another channel. Then Channel 11 would have cartoons from 3:30 to 4:30, Monday to Friday. Saturday mornings, we had cartoons on 3 channels from 6 to noon. When I say I was a cartoon watcher, I knew what was on all 3 channels Saturday morning at each half hour. And this was in the olden days when, if you wanted to see what was on another channel, you had to stand up and walk across the room and physically spin the TV dial. Today, my kids can watch cartoons in color, in English, 24 hours a day, every day of the week in Kathmandu, Nepal. God bless the 20th century. We scrubbed for dinner and went downstairs to eat at the Hotel Utsi restaurant. The kids had pizza they described as icky, and we had what I think all would consider a clean meal. Nice rice, potato, and chicken. At 8 p.m., Serinda showed up to give us our itinerary for the next week. And oh, by the way, did he mention to us that there was a huge national strike taking place the day after tomorrow, and it would be dangerous for us to travel? On that day, we were supposed to begin our 3-day hike, but he recommended that we spend the day in Pakura in our hotel rooms. Of course, we greatly protested at this, so Serinda mentioned that we could probably safely make it to the airport in the morning, and the airplanes would fly us to Pakura. But we would have to start our hike right from the airport, which would add about 2 hours to our hiking time. With the memories of Pakistani day rooms still burned into our brain, we all decided that an extra couple of hours walking was preferable to a full day spent in another 1-star hotel. Serinda also told us we couldn't start hiking or backpacking without his preparing some state forms. So tomorrow, before our city tour, we had to arrange to have some passport size photos made. We wished Serinda a good evening, and at this point, having been awake for 36 hours, we decided to go to bed and prepare for our 6 p.m. departure. Okay, short one for today, longer one tomorrow.